Next, we'll have House Bill 270, revising the law on the death penalty. Representative Willis, you're up. You're recognized to present your bill. We're still on the original bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 270 is before you today. This is the original bill. This is an act to revise the law on the death penalty. This, as you know, I'm sure most folks have read up on this. The death penalty has pretty much been on a moratorium since 2006. It's been tied up in court for a number of reasons. This bill would follow South Carolina law that was recently enacted that got around those legal challenges and has been moved forward successfully. Basically, it gives the opportunity for a criminal on death row to have the choice of their execution method. It no longer relies solely on the cocktail, as they refer to it, to be used. They have their choice, and we are asking for your support for this bill. To be, I guess, quite frank about this, I mean, we know that there are court cases out there that are pending. Those court cases have basically been frozen in place for the last, close to 20 years. It's time for these cases to be moved forward, either through resolution by action of this body or through the courts themselves, moving these forward and gaining final resolution. The victims' families, which we hardly ever hear about when we go through this, and I'm sure there's a number of folks that are signed up to speak today, and I guarantee you the victims' families, retribution, justice for those families will not be mentioned once. We're here today to support those families who have long been awaiting justice and closure to the loss of loved ones by the folks that have been put on death row, and this is something that we don't take lightly. This has been, I think, a long time coming for some of these families. They've had to continue to live through this decade after decade, and we've seen no action. We've seen no support from our Attorney General. We've seen no support from our previous two governors, and it's time for action on this, and we ask this body to help us move this forward. I'll stand for questions.
All right. Members, Representative Budd.
I have a question for the bill sponsor.
Certainly. Yield?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Yes. Is it your intent then that this proposed legislation, that it result in the lifting of the current moratorium that's in place?
Absolutely.
Okay. At the same time that the Senate is recommending cutting the Innocence Commission entirely?
I have no control over what the Senate does.
I understand that, but we're getting ready to pass the budget here in the House. So at the same time, you want to lift the moratorium on the death penalty. You want to...
Well, let's don't
That's
make it
not
argumentative.
germane.
Let's ask a
I'll speak
question,
to-
and I don't know if that's
Yeah.
part of his bill. I think that's what he's
But
indicating.
I guess I'm more
It's not part of his
speaking to the bill at this point.
bill. Well, you would like to
Apologize. Yeah,
address the
to
bill.
this bill.
You've
Yeah.
got the
So-
floor to address the bill.
Okay. And I understand that we don't have our budget yet, and we in the House may decide that we are not in favor of ending funding for the Innocence Commission. But I just want to say that once you take a person's life, it's gone. And so my heart goes out to those families who have lost someone and are watching the appeals go on in the justice system, and they would like some closure. And my heart goes out to them. But if we make a mistake and we take another person's life, then we have done twice we have committed a wrong.
Thank you. Further members of the committee, I've got 3 people signed up to speak on this bill. Nothing further from the committee. I'll call on Jennifer Copeland. If you'll come up, give your name and any groups you might represent, and you'll have 1 minute.
Thank you, ma'am. Jennifer Copeland, North Carolina Council of Churches, representing 19 denominations all over North Carolina, also closely working with families of murder victims against the death penalty. If you want some of them in the room, I can bring them for you. Let me know. We'll sign them up. We're skipping over the dysfunctional application and ineffectiveness of the death penalty, since the death penalty is not really the topic. We're on the method of execution. Electrocutions are gruesome. Prisoners catch fire, cook from the inside. There is a smell of burning human flesh, and possibly even jolting a conscious person multiple times to bring about their death. In my home state of South Carolina, let me go on the record as a proud Palmetto person. Firing squads are back in vogue. Witnesses describe both prisoners violently straining their arms against the straps when shot. Blood spewed out of the chest of one prisoner. The other cried out in agony 3 times before he was pronounced dead. I'm told the shooters missed his heart. If we want... Stop. Well, that was fast. Let me just say one more thing.
Sorry. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. We've limited everybody's
Lord
time because
have
we have
mercy.
so many people
Lord have
ready.
mercy.
Mark Swallow. Mr. Swallow was in here a minute ago to speak on one bill. And do we have Don Blagrove?
You're up, brother.
Well, Mark, yeah, I figured he was. I didn't know. Is Don Blagrove answered? Okay. You have 1 minute again for the record, your name and any group you represent.
My name is Mark Swallow with Democracy Out Loud. So we've done electrocution execution before, and we stopped that because of humaneness, public perception, and legal challenges, right? So there's concerned about the cruelty and boss execution, as you heard previously. Legal challenges under the 8th Amendment, which will continue, international pressure and evolving standards, and a shift in public opinion. Pope Francis, in 2013, stated that capital punishment is an offense against the inviolability of life and the dignity of the human person, which contradicts God's plan for man and society, does not render justice to the victim, but rather fosters vengeance. And the sponsors that I wouldn't mention, the families left, well, Pope Francis covers it right here. Stepping it back to electrocution is the exact opposite of pro-life. And we're all sponsors of pro-life in this room, right? You need to deny the passage of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Did we locate Ms. Blagrove? Okay, so. All right, that's all the speakers I have signed up. We're back to the members of the committee. Further discussion, further debate? Looking for a motion? Representative Carson Smith, you're recognized.
Move for a favorable report to House Bill 270 with a referral to state and local government.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and it will be so reported. Thank you, Representative Willis.
Thank you, committee. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, let's get to House Bill 781. As I told you, we're jumping around, and part of it has to do with the number of speakers we have. So Representative Biggs, you are recognized to speak on your bill, which is still the original bill. We don't usually have original bills in here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 781, there's been some conversation around this bill, and it came to me by local municipalities kind of looking for direction of what to do. The homeless population has increased over the last few years, and a lot of it's due to mental health and also drug addiction, alcohol, and sometimes it's just circumstances. But the understanding of how to handle this and what to do, and it was funny as I was here just standing in this room, I had a local municipality that was watching on, and they're still saying we need guidance, we need an understanding. Law enforcement, I talked to them, and from city to city, there's variance on how they're handling it. We've had cities there around me and in my district, they've completely cleared out all the trees, just completely blank land, which is terrible because they don't know what to do. There's so many tents and there's so many homeless there, and it's unsanitary. And what this bill does, it does not ban, does it criminalize homelessness? No. It addresses the use of, public property for camping and sleeping without prohibiting homelessness itself. It does create clear guidance. We need guidance. We need understanding. We need designated areas that people can do temporarily. Municipalities can have a 1-year temporary area, and it can be renewed where they're going to provide the services as far as the public safety, sanitation, access to help services people need. Thank you, and I appreciate your green button.
Members of the committee, questions, discussions from members of the committee? Seeing none, we have a few people. I'm sorry. Representative Charles Smith, you weren't quick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Biggs, I appreciate you bringing forth a bill to seek to address homelessness. I think that's something that we can agree needs to be addressed. And you mentioned the mental health and potential addiction services methods of achieving that goal. I wanted to just respectfully kind of push back on the clear guidance the bill you say it provides, because I had questions about how this would actually be implemented or how a city or county might enforce what the bill seeks to do. I mean, if you look at subsection B, it says, except as provided in subsection C of this section, a local government unit may not authorize or otherwise allow any person to regularly engage in public camping or sleeping. I think the bill should define what that means. I think that lends itself to a subjective interpretation that could be enforced differently depending on a county or municipality's interpretation. So I would ask if the bill sponsor understands what regularly engaged means.
Representative Biggs, do you wish to respond?
I appreciate your comments, and as we go through it, I think DHHS they're going to be looking at it, the local municipalities and cities. I am a local government guy, and I think we need to turn it over to them. They can designate their spots for 1 year, and we need to let local government handle that and handle their towns and cities. It's so many times here we're overbearing in Raleigh, and we don't allow our cities to control their own cities, and I think that's really a local government issue. Thank you for your question.
Could I have just a follow-up? I mean, it's, again, I think I can appreciate where you're coming from, but that would have result in different enforcement depending on different cities could enforce that term in different ways if we don't define it, or different counties. And I think, something like that should have some type of uniformity. I question in subsection D3, the property would not adversely and materially affect the property value so again, property values. Are we going to ask a county to perform some type of appraisal or get some type of expert report as to how this encampment would affect property value? Is that going to be left to the opinion of some, staff member within the local municipality or local county? So I have questions about how we determine that. And so I think the bill is seeking to address homelessness, which is commendable. I don't know that we're giving the counties and municipalities the tool to be able to do it, and that clear guidance that the bill sponsor is seeking to achieve. And that's so. I mean, I just don't. How is that? How are we going to determine whether the property value is adversely or materially affected?
You may.
Representative Smith, and I appreciate. I can tell your passion and your heartfelt statements. What I would say is, I'm willing to talk with you after this. It's got another committee to go to. I think your heart's in the right place. My heart's in the right place. We want to make sure. Obviously, we do have a homeless population, but we want to make sure these things are took care of and not adversely affecting other people's property. But I think we can have a conversation offline and move forward. Thank you.
As I said, it's not a PCS. We didn't look to address a lot of issues there. Members of the committee, I've got some people signed up to speak, but does anybody else in the committee have something they want to?
Let them speak first.
All right. We have Benjamin Horsan. Okay. Handwriting is hard for me to read, but if you'll come forward and you'll be given a minute to speak, and you tell us anybody that you're here on behalf of.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman and committee members. My name is Benjamin Horton. I am a United States Navy veteran. Also utilize the services through the VA. I work for Veteran Services of the Carolinas and Nashville Buncombe Community Christian Ministries. We serve almost 1,500 veterans every single year. Our street outreach team is in the field, under bridges, in the woods. One thing that this bill allows us to have maybe questions on is the availability of person-centered care. That's also the same for municipalities. Every municipality is different. Are they going to be able to have the ability to keep veterans safe in these localized areas? Are we going to be able to find veterans? We're a very stubborn bunch, right? You're telling us where we can camp, where we can't camp. That's going to make it harder on street outreach folks, mental health folks who's working with the VA for multiple homeless services, right? We have housed almost 75 different veterans this year through that.
Thank you. Chris Sharp, you'll have 1 minute.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Chris Sharp. I am a retired probation officer, retired Army officer, former federal servant, and I was also homeless at the age of 16. I represent the Cicero Institute, which is a nonprofit think tank which looks for innovative legislation in support of this bill. In 2024, North Carolina reports roughly 4,500 unsheltered homeless people, 1,060 beds in the different continuums of care. This bill allows for local governments to establish sanctioned camping areas that provide basic sanitation, access to mental health and substance abuse treatment, along with protection from gangs, drug dealers, which often prey on these vulnerable individuals. HB 781 also provides for the protection of individual property and small business property rights. And thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Next we have Chris Nobled. He was outside. Mr. Is this, if you'll give us your name and anybody you may represent.
Thank you. My name is Chris Noblet. I'm an organizer with the National Union of the Homeless. I picked up one of these constitutions of this North Carolina state in the lobby. The first section says that we are endowed by a creator certain inalienable rights. Among those are the fruits of our own labor. What is public property other than the taxes, all of the labor that we have all put into this great state? Homeless people are not people. We also deserve to enjoy the fruits of our own labor, to be on public property. This bill will kill people. We have another word for sanctioned encampments. Those are concentration camps. If you really wanted to help homeless people, then you would help to unlock the 27 empty homes for every homeless person. You would help us get Medicaid for every person. You would raise the minimum wage so we could afford the sky-high rent that the corporations in North Carolina are holding hostage. This bill will kill the Hurricane Helene victims that have still not gotten help by FEMA or the state. This bill will kill veterans that serve our country. Please do not let this bill pass. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy Blair. Randy Blair. Mr. Blair, you have 1 minute.
Hello, my name is Randy Blair. I'm not like affiliated with any organizations or anything. I'm just one of those guys from the bottom up. I really like I couldn't really hear. I had my headset on, but I just want to reiterate the point. Like, it's a lot of rundown buildings that people own that, you know, could be utilized if you really want to help this situation. Is the answer isn't confined or boxed in, but it's supposed to be free. And the things that are holding some people down are the fact that, yeah, we only work for crumbs, and we have to save and hold on to what little bit we get just to end up paying somebody else at the end of the month. And that's just to be able to say, I have a home. Sometimes things happen. You know, you lose a job, you get hurt, and those adversely affect you. And the way things are set up now, if you don't have a set amount of money at the end of a month, you can at any given time be put out or thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Sasha Batts. Sasha Batts. I think she had been outside. Nope. And we have Latoya Agard. Latoya Agard, you'll come up.
Thank you so much. Today I have graphics for each person on the committee. It should be focused on your particular area that you serve. Please take one off the top and pass it down the line. Your name is in the bottom right-hand corner. This information is also being given to the press. I'm also glad today that the Cicero Institute has finally revealed itself as the sponsor and lobbyist for this bill. The Cicero Institute has been founded by a billionaire who is outside of our state. They have provided the template for this bill in other states around the country as an opposition to Housing First, which is documented and clearly has evidence that it does work when it is funded properly. This bill does not take into account the issue that there is not enough affordable housing. As homelessness has increased, as the number of people who are unsheltered has increased, our affordable housing availability has decreased. And that is why we see so many people in this need. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do we have someone else prepared to speak? Okay. All right. I just have one question. There's a Reverend G. Kevin Baker. Mr. Baker, you wanted to speak on Senate Bill 724. That's not in this committee. 781. Okay. You've got a minute.
My name is Reverend Kevin Baker, lead pastor of Eden Street United Methodist Church in downtown Raleigh. I'm here speaking on behalf of Bishop Connie Mitchell Shelton, which is the Episcopal leader for the eastern part of our state, 433 churches, 56 counties on the eastern part of the state. I rise in opposition to this bill, mainly because it's not solution-based. We do have a affordable housing crisis. The local governments and nonprofit agencies across the state are already effectively addressing homelessness using the Housing First model, which was bipartisan. It came under the Bush administration. We need to lean into solutions and not kind of kick the can down the road or to other municipalities and counties that have more resources, and they kind of flood to those. Even in Representative Miller's district, after prioritizing most chronic cases, the Cape Fear Continuum of Care documented returns to homelessness 1 out of 10. So there's a very high success rate there in that area. So we have solutions here. We need to lean into those, and I would ask that you reject this bill.
Thank you. I didn't see anybody else signed up to, I'm sorry, what's your name? Otto Harris. Did you sign up, Mr. Harris? You did? I'm not finding your name. That's why I'm. Mr. Harris, if you go ahead and speak, then I'll find your name. Otto Harris?
Yes.
All right, if you'll tell us any group that you're with?
Okay, Otto Harris, speaking on behalf of Bishop Ken Carter's office, Western North Carolina, representing the Western 44 counties in the state. And I rise to speak in opposition to the bill. Beginning with the question, how can we push down folks who are already down? It seems like it's impossible, but this bill has figured it out. Some of the most vulnerable and impoverished citizens find themselves in harm's way with potential penalties, fines, court dates, blemishes on their records, which will further stigmatize and criminalize and dehumanize them. 86% of North Carolina voters believe that homelessness cannot be resolved by using law enforcement resources to ticket, fine, and arrest people for being without housing, especially when there's not enough affordable housing to go around. There are 66 affordable housing units to every 100 households, making below half of the area median wage in North Carolina. For example, in Representative Stevens' district, it takes an hourly wage of more than $16 to afford housing.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your comments. That is all the speakers I show signed up, and I'm sorry if we skipped you, Representative Mr. Harris. Further committee discussion, Representative Budd.
I want to first state that homelessness is a very knotty problem. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. There are people with mental illness, substance abuse disorders, people who simply prefer to live on the street. I have met some of those in some of my volunteer capacities. There is no one-size-fits-all. And I will say the first thing about this bill is it doesn't criminalize homelessness, which I appreciate. Not sure about the homeless guy paying the civil penalties, but I do appreciate no criminality. I have a good friend some number of years ago who served in the military for 20 years as an MP, came back, joined local law enforcement, and at a barbecue he asked me, he said, "You noticed anything different about our streets lately?" And I was, kind of questioning. He says, "There are no homeless people." Well, Charlotte was getting ready to host a big event, and they wanted the city to look good. And so they had moved those people who didn't have housing. They had kind of pushed them south, east, west, and north out of the city, so it didn't look as if we had a homeless problem. And when I asked about that, he said, well, it makes people very uncomfortable. It doesn't smell good. They're in the way. They urinate in public. And again, he wasn't trying to be disparaging. He was just simply pointing out that these are some of the facts that exist. And I said, you have a point. And I said, but what's the solution? He said, we don't know, we don't have it. And he was law enforcement. I will also say with the wage issue, when I say there's not a one size fits all, if you make $7.25 an hour, which is the legal minimum wage, and you work 40 hours a week and you take no time off, you work 52 weeks in the year, you make $15,080 before taxes. You do that for 2 jobs, you're at $30,160. So when we talk about solutions for homeless people, we need to not just be talking about affordable housing, we need to speak in real dollars, which is if you're working 2 40-hour-a-week jobs, that's 80 hours a week before taxes, and you still can't pay rent. Substance abuse disorders, we've talked about that at length here in this committee, how we want to treat those, how we'd like to have a more humane approach. So while I understand the bill's purpose, I'm not sure it solves a problem. And so the one suggestion I've got for a friendly amendment, if you're willing to consider it later, is if you're living in your car If it has to be insured and located in a place where it may be lawfully parked and registered, that may pose a problem for someone who does not make enough money to afford any kind of housing. So.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comments? Representative Lou.
A question for the bill sponsor.
Okay, you.
Yeah. Could you share which municipalities requested this bill? Are they the municipalities in urban counties, or what are the?
Well, my district, I've had many people I've talked to in my district and outside my district, and this is something where, honestly, when speaking to law enforcement, city managers, there's so much gray area. They're just trying to get some continuity about how to handle it, and definitely not trying to demonize homeless people. Basically, some of this gives them dignity, making sure that they have sanitary restrooms and things like that if they want to designate a spot for a year. But it's been multiple municipalities, and it's not demonizing homelessness. They're just trying to figure out, how do we handle it, just like what Representative Budd said. How do we figure this out? I think this is a good start. We'll definitely talk. We'll talk and move forward, but we're not trying to demonize. We're just trying to get a solution.
And I appreciate that, and I encourage the bill sponsors.
You want to follow up?
Yeah, follow up. Yeah, I appreciate your intent to address the homeless issue, but I encourage the bill sponsors to look into ways to help the homeless population and engage a wide range of municipalities who want, to be in this conversation, see how we can address the homelessness. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Budd.
A quick follow-up question, which is for purposes of designating a spot and the sanitation issues that have come up that Representative Liu mentioned, I think you had mentioned as well, Representative Biggs. Why is there no funding provision in this to assist the municipalities in addressing the homeless issue to the extent that this bill could possibly provide some solutions for some people who are unhoused?
Thank you for the question, and we're looking at different things, and I've looked at that also, but right now there's an adverse funding because there's a lot of things with cleanup and things like that happens right now, and it may be more beneficial, and we can look at analysis as we go forward of having the city pick a spot. Here's what we can do. I know I saw in Greensboro, which is a neighboring city to me, they're looking at doing something. They actually took a hotel and redid it for temporary housing. There's ways people are doing things that actually may end up being more cost effective than actually going in and bulldozing trees and doing cleanup. It may be more cost effective. So I'm open to conversation. I think it's a good bill. I think it's got the right intent. We don't want to paint it as a bad intent. And just for the record, I did this bill in my office, me and my LA. No one came to me with this bill. I came up with this bill, and we got bill drafting to do this bill. Thank you.
Further discussion or debate among the committee? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Representative Purtle, I didn't even have to wake you up.
Motion for a favorable report to House Bill 781, referral to state and local government.
All right, you've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill will be so reported. Thank you. Now we're going to move.
Damages. It ensures that the extension of the statute of limitation applies to causes of action that occurred before or on or after the effective date and allows revival of causes of action that existed before the enactment of the act, including pending causes of action. So the difference between the original House Bill 606 and the PCS is it changes from 25 years to 10 years for the day that the claimant reaches 18. It removes or for 4 years from discovery of both the injury and the causal relationship between the treatment and the injury, whichever is later. It clarifies that the definition of gender transition applies to the entire section rather than just the subsection. Subsection E clarifies that the waiver cannot be obtained for liability arising out of facilitating a gender transition. Subsection F clarifies that the damages cap doesn't apply to these type of claimants. Section 2 limits the use of state funds for gender transition procedures. Section 3, the effective date states the act applies to causes of action accruing before the effective date, as well as on and after. It also adds language similar to that of the Safe Child Act regarding reviving a cause of action otherwise time-barred.
All right, thank you. And members, I think I forgot to say in the beginning, y'all have to keep me on my toes. This is a PCS, and without objection, the PCS is before us. I think the PCS makes some effective changes. So now we are open for discussion and debate among the committee.
So I was
Actually,
actually
you're saying, he has
I
one
could,
more
I could
thing he wants
feel
to
that
say.
you wanted to jump in. So I just wanted to point these out. Important things to remember: this bill does not create a new cause of action. The bill does not relieve the plaintiff of proving medical malpractice, that the doctor provided substandard care to the patient, and that the patient was injured because of the doctor's action. The bill simply extends the remedy to an age when the brain is fully developed so the plaintiff can fully understand his decision in taking action, his or her decision in taking action. The statute of limitation is not limited to individuals who transition as minors, but also for transitions that occur after the age of 18. The statute of limitations will expire at the age of 28. Stand for questions. Thank you.
All right. Questions or comments from the committee? Representative Carver.
Just a motion at the appropriate time.
All right, we got several people lined up to speak. That's why I just wanted to see, and I will come back to you for the motion. Somebody else wanting to speak, then we'll go to, we're on 606, right?
Yes.
Prisha Mosley. We'll give you a minute, yeah, because we're going to run low on time.
Thank you. My name is Prisha Mosley. At the age of 16, I began a medicalized gender transition in North Carolina. Even though my doctors did this to me roughly 10 years ago, it was only 10 months ago that I faced horrific surgical complications as a result of their actions. During my so-called top surgery, my surgeon left pieces of my breast tissue inside of my chest. I gave birth to a baby boy, and days later, this caused my milk to come in. My chest filled up with large rocks and my scars ripped open, but I was unable to release any milk because my nipples were grafted. They are decorative now and in the wrong place, and my chest is surgically sealed shut. It took many years for me to realize that transition was not going to actually change my sex and that my doctors had misled me and harmed me. I continue to receive new diagnoses and face complications as a result of hormones and surgery. My life has been permanently altered by medical harm, and it was most likely shortened as a result. Despite all of this, I have been unable to hold my doctors fully accountable in court for medical malpractice. The statute of limitations is too short. I need justice, and so do many others in North Carolina.
Thank you. Ellie Palmer.
My name is Elle Palmer. I'm a detransitioner, and I support HB 606. When I was 15, I told my parents I was a boy trapped in a girl's body. They took me to Planned Parenthood so the doctors could talk some sense into me. I told the doctors about my bipolar diagnosis, sexual abuse, and multiple mental hospital visits all before I was 14, but they prescribed me testosterone anyway. After 2 years, my doctor encouraged me to get a non-medically necessary hysterectomy. Because I said I was a boy, he was okay with permanently sterilizing me at age 18. 4 years later, I contacted a law firm. The doctors had harmed me at every turn, but the lawyers told me the statute of limitations had already passed and there was nothing they could do. I transitioned as a child. I couldn't see into the future, but I shouldn't have been expected to. I needed more than 3 years to understand the lifelong regret that gender transition causes. That's why the extension of the statute of limitations is so critical. Please pass House Bill 606 so people like me who didn't understand the life sentence they signed up for will be able to get justice. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Sumo.
My name is Mary Suma. I'm General Counsel for NC Values, and we support this bill. This bill is about fairness and justice for men and women who have been used to advance an ideology that has hurt them both mentally and physically and has made them lifelong patients of the hospitals and doctors. The bill does not create a new cause of action. It simply extends the statute of limitations to allow these men and women time for their brains to develop fully so they can understand the consequences of their actions. Research now shows that as high as 13.1% of individuals who transition will detransition. According to the Society of Evidence-Based Gender Medicine, the average age of transition is 18 for social transitioning, 20 for medical transition. 1/4 began transitioning as minors. The average age of detransition is 23. On average, detransition occurs roughly 5 years after transitioning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rayla Collins. I got the name right? Rayla Collins.
Sammy Sulkin, I'll be speaking in place of my colleague Rayla Collins today. House Bill 606 is an unjustified attempt to single out gender-affirming care and intimidate providers of this care. No other type of health care is singled out and treated differently in our medical malpractice statutes, and there is no medical justification for singling out gender-affirming health care in this way. This medical care is essential to the health and well-being of transgender people. Any attempts to intimidate providers from providing this care puts the health and well-being of transgender people at risk. Allowing the state to single out specific treatment based on politics or personal beliefs will open the door to further intrusions into all of our healthcare. As to the addition of Section 2 in the PCS that would prohibit the use of state funds for gender and affirming care in prison, this would function as an outright ban on gender-affirming care in prison and would violate the 8th Amendment. People deserve adequate medical care for their gender dysphoria, and failure to provide it is an affront to human dignity and a threat to people's lives. We urge you to vote no.
Judah Pulley.
Hi, my name is Judah. I come as a concerned constituent. What I see in House Bill 606 is the reduction of the value of my own consent to medical procedures and medical decisions. This bill serves only to single out not only the trans community, but also the doctors that try to help us. To say that we're incapable of making long-term reproductive decisions for our bodies is unfair. And it also spits in the face of those who have to make those kinds of decisions as young persons, as teenagers, due to medical conditions such as cancer and other devastating diagnoses. I see no difference here. Please do not support this bill.
Thank you. That appears to be all the people I have signed up. Did I overlook anyone? All right. Members of the committee, any further discussion? Representative Allen, do you have any final comment you'd like to make? If not, I'm sorry, Representative Charles Smith.
Just a quick question. Is there still the 9J certification requirements for the medical malpractice action, which is you have to have an expert certified, they've reviewed the applicable records, and be willing to testify that likely to qualify as an expert under 702, and then also willing to testify that the quality of care fell below a certain standard. That's a standing threshold to file any current medical malpractice suit. I just didn't know if this bill affects that.
Yeah, I mean, you might have been able to say that in Spanish, and I would have understood more. I think that
He said it
doesn't change anything about the standard of malpractice that you have to reach. It just broadens the statute of limitation.
Representative Carver.
Yes, ma'am. I have a motion regarding House Bill 606. Move forward with a favorable PCS, unfavorable to the original bill, with a referral to state and local government.
You've heard the motion. Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and it will be so reported. Now, the winner of the day with the most people wanting to comment on her bill and his bill, we have Representative Balcom and Representative Jackson presenting the Parents' Bill of Rights. House Bill 519, and there is a PCS, and without objection, the PCS is before us. Representative Balcom. You can put your book there. So I'm not you away.
I'm starting to stay in there. Tell me to move. Is that right? Representative Jackson speaks after me.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 519 is about restoring balance and transparency in doctor-patient relationships involving minors. It maintains that physicians and licensed practitioners can consult with minors without about their health, but when it comes to prescribing or performing treatment, parental consent must be obtained unless it's an emergency or a mandated reporting situation. This ensures that parents are informed participants in their child's health care, especially when it involves long-term implications, while preserving key exceptions for emergencies and abuse reporting.
Representative Jackson.
This bill, what it does, it just reinforces parental rights, and the recent HAPL decision does that. We want parents involved. It's just common sense, and so this is not a radical bill. This is a very common sense bill that supports our parents.
Okay. Members of the committee, any comments or discussion before I go to speakers? You can have a chance afterwards too, but. All right, the first person signed up to speak is Mary Suma.
Mary Suma again, General Counsel for NC Values. The first question for every member of this committee that every member of this committee should ask themselves: do we really believe that parents should have the right to make medical decisions for their child or not? North Carolina is an outlier in the rights of minors to make medical decisions, despite what you may have been led to believe. With the exception of STDs, most states do not give minors living with their parents the right to consent to prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of HIV, pregnancy, drugs and alcohol, mental health, or emotional disturbance. We are the only state that allows prevention of emotional disturbance for a minor to consent to that. Emotional disturbance is not defined in the statute. In North Carolina, parental consent is required for a number of things under the age of 18. A minor cannot marry without parental consent. A minor cannot get a body piercing without parental consent. A doctor cannot repair an ingrown toenail without parental consent. High school personnel cannot give aspirin without parental consent. We give lip service to parents' rights. We can give lip service to parents' rights, or we can stand up for them and give them the right to control the custody or the well-being of their children.
Thank you. Dr. Erica Pettigrew. Dr. Pettigrew. You'll have a minute.
Yes, ma'am. I'm Dr. Erica Pettigrew, family physician. I urge you all to please listen to the unified medical community and vote against this bill. We all truly want the same goal: healthy families with open communication. Minor confidentiality laws are actually tools that help us achieve this. Passing this bill will decrease teen conversations with parents. When I have a teen getting a checkup with me, I explain what confidentiality means, and sometimes I get questions like, when will I get armpit hair? Can you tell my parents to get me a car? But other times it might be, do I need an ID to buy condoms? Or they open up about bullying that's so bad they want to die. I'm currently able to say, have you had these conversations with your parents? What do you think that conversation would be like? Let's talk about it. Let's bring the parent in if they agree. But if you pass this bill, that conversation would not happen because the teen may not open up. They are likely to turn to unreliable sources like TikTok instead. Please do not take away this important tool that improves communication with parents. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Smith, I'm going to ask if you'll take over the dais. I have to present a bill in another committee. We are right there.
Yes, we have to go to get something. Okay.
Becky Lou Hobbs, you have 1 minute.
Hi, my name is Becky Lou Hobbs. I'm chapter chair of Moms for Liberty in Wake County, but more importantly, I'm a mom. And I ask that you support this bill. When our son was 14 years old, we discovered he'd been hurting himself and we had to rush him to the emergency room. But when we arrived, things took a very unexpected turn because we were forced to leave the room. He was left alone and the doctor began asking him questions, not only about his mental health, but also about our family. He was already scared and vulnerable, but instead of being comforted, the doctor made him feel interrogated and isolated, and we as parents were treated as the enemy. The doctor excluded us, preventing us from being part of the solution, all because of current North Carolina statute is used to exclude parents from their medical care. Soon after, my son began seeing a psychologist, and we quickly learned this doctor's hands were tied as well. He wasn't allowed to share. How could we help our son if we didn't understand what was going on? We had no insight into how we could help him. We were just given enough information to pay the bills and to bring him to his next appointment. Beyond that, we were left in the dark. So I ask that you support this bill. Parents, and only parents, not the government, have the right to direct the care and the upbringing of their children.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jansen White. You have 1 minute.
Good morning, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Jansen White. I'm the Assistant Secretary for Government Affairs for the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. We have significant concerns with House Bill 519. Overall, parental consent for medical services is the standard, and there's consensus that parental consent and involvement is recommended and encouraged by providers, and it occurs in the vast majority of cases. However, evidence shows that requiring parental consent reduces adolescent access to care, including mental health care, increases the risks of untreated sexually transmitted infections, unintended pregnancies, and untreated mental health conditions. Relatedly, limiting confidentiality could also impede access to this essential care like behavioral health treatment. Reducing adolescent utilization of health care services would likely increase the rates of poor outcomes like STIs, mental health disorders, substance use disorders, unintended pregnancies, suicide or violence. Early discussion, diagnosis, and intervention for health conditions with a medical provider typically result in better outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you. Julie Page. 1 minute, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Julie Page. I'm the chair of the Moms for Liberty North Carolina State Legislative Committee. I rise today in support of the North Carolina Parents Medical Bill of Rights because it affirms a fundamental legal and ethical principle that parents have the right to make informed decisions about their child's health care. This bill strengthens the relationship between families and providers by ensuring transparency, consent, and clear communication, all of which are essential in maintaining public trust. It does not restrict access to care, but rather enforces due process and parental authority already recognized in both statute and case law. Supporting this legislation means upholding the rights of families while fostering accountability within our medical system. I urge you to move this bill forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Teresa Flynn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Teresa Flynn. I am a practicing pediatrician and president of the North Carolina Pediatric Society. In addition to my 7 years of medical training, I have been caring for children in Wake County for more than 22 years. I am also the mother of a teenager and have been for 15 years. I urge you to preserve North Carolina's current effective minor consent law and at a minimum, treat this as an important healthcare issue that should be considered in the Healthcare Committee. I am privileged to care for many teens. North Carolina's current minor consent law is an important healthcare tool I use every day in caring for my patients. Like the other physician who spoke, typically after addressing parent and teen concerns together, the young person has a chance to speak with me privately. They may have worries about their body, challenges at school, or questions about vaping and alcohol. We speak briefly and the patient returns to their mom. Unfortunately, sometimes the topics are heavier.
Thank you. Sorry. Jerry Royal?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jerry Royal. I'm counsel for the North Carolina Family Policy Council. NC Family wholeheartedly supports House Bill 519, as this legislation will affirm the fundamental rights of parents to care for and raise their children, especially when issues of physical and emotional health are concerned. This bill will help to ensure that parents are involved when their minor children are treated by a physician for sexually transmitted diseases, the abuse of controlled substances or alcohol, and emotional disturbance. The bill will also ensure that parents have access to the medical records of their minor children so they can help determine the best care. Appropriately, House Bill 519 makes exception when there's cause to suspect abuse or neglect. Simply stated, the best people to make informed, thoughtful decisions about their children's well-being are the parents. The family structure is designed to ensure that children have a safe place to grow and to thrive, and it's vital that we respect and protect the rights of parents. For these reasons, we urge you to support Parents' Medical Bill of Rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark McClure.
Thank you. My name is Mark McClure. I'm a member of Democracy Out Loud. I'm also a board-certified urologist. I'm opposed to this bill and ask you to vote against it. If enacted, it will have serious consequences. Adolescents will refuse to seek care due to fear of retribution, imagined or stated, which result in delayed or absent treatment for venereal diseases, alcohol or substance abuse, emotional disturbances in pregnancy. Consequently, adolescents will be subject to increased complications, including infertility, pelvic inflammatory disease, cervical and throat cancers, spread of contagion, pregnancy complications, suicide, substance abuse, overdoses, fatal car crashes, the list goes on. Removing protection of their medical records will also further exacerbate the problem. You'll note the new restrictions outlaw a minor's right to consent for prevention of these four health conditions. Really? That's absurd. This law is punitive, and I ask you to vote against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Floyd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Matthew Floyd with Awake America, and I'm here to ask the members of the committee to vote in favor of 519. Parents not only have the right, but the responsibility to take care of their children, and especially if that child is struggling mentally. When a law in our state prevents them this opportunity to help their children, that law needs to change. I understand that kids don't want their parents to know when they have an STD or when they've been doing drugs. And as a teacher and a father and a grandfather, I know that kids, they don't want their parents to know anytime that they're in trouble. But the fact that the young person has an STD or a drug or alcohol problem is evidence that they're not ready to make their own decisions. Please support the Parents' Medical Bill of Rights so that our children can get help from those that love them the most, their parents.
Thank you. Bennett Chapman.
Hello, my name is Bennett Chapman. It was introduced saying this is not a radical bill. I disagree. I'm urging the members of this committee to oppose this legislation. Since 1977, North Carolina has recognized and accounted for the fact that young people are more likely to access the health care that they need when they need it if they trust that the care will be confidential. Listen to the doctors, Department of Health and Human Services officials, and other members of the medical community who have spoken out today, and do not listen to bigots. Don't turn back the clock more than 50 years, and do not delay or deny health care. Thank you.
I would caution characterizing anybody who brought forth the bill as a bigot. We may disagree on opinions, but we can still be respectful. Deanna Jones.
Hi, my name is Deanna Jones. I am a transgender woman. I transitioned at the age of 54. I am adamantly opposed to this bill. This bill provides a chilling effect on youth to be able to seek help, regardless that we have people say, well, the parents will support their kids. In a lot of cases, that does not happen. As a matter of fact, in over half of the cases, parents may not support a child's transition or thoughts about gender because they're supposed to be in a box. This bill provides that chilling effect where youth will not want to talk to their parents, and it also prevents them from getting help from anywhere else. We cannot allow the mental health of our youth to be at risk by passing this bill, because that is exactly what is going to happen. So I urge you to listen to the health professionals, and thank you very much for allowing me to talk.
Thank you. Mary Ross?
Thank you. I'm Mary Ross with Democracy Out Loud. This bill restricts adolescent patients' right to health care, and I urge you to vote no. Currently, patients under 18 years old can consent and receive treatment for STDs, addiction, mental health, and pregnancy, except abortion care. Requiring parental consent and giving parents the right to all of the patient's medical records will endanger the health and well-being of young people in NC. And, they will not seek care due to fear, and this will result in increases in pelvic inflammatory disease, infertility, pregnancy complications, a range of possibilities that I mentioned before. So this committee should be focused on creating legislation that increases the health of North Carolina, not putting them in harm's way as this bill does. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Vicki Sawyer? Dr. Vicki Sawyer? I'm sorry, Fowler? Fowler.
Hi. Hello. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you, Judiciary Committee. My name is Vicki Fowler, and I stand before you as a concerned family physician and a mother in opposition to House Bill 519. House Bill 519 revokes a minor's ability to consent to health care services except for prenatal care without parental consent. Since I was 7 years old, the state of North Carolina allowed minors to consent to these services. Minors often face sensitive issues that they may not yet feel comfortable discussing with their parents or guardians. Confidential care is essential for their well-being. The other physicians that stood before you all are in alignment. Family physicians, pediatricians, even urologists are well trained to provide minors with support, clinical information, resources, and help the adolescents obtain appropriate medical information. It's true, they'll go to TikTok. It's true. That's where they'll get their information if they can't speak to me. As a family physician, I am lucky because I often provide care to the parents. I encourage you to vote against House Bill 519. Thank you.
Thank you. Inez Elliott. Inez Elliott? No answer, so we'll go to the next one. Judah Pulley. And this is our last speaker, and we'll hope to take a vote by 10 till so we can stay with our committee rules.
Hi, I go by Judah. I come as a concerned constituent. What I see in House Bill 519 is the assumption that all parents are ready to accept and act upon there being a medical or mental health concern with their child. And in my experience growing up, that has not always been the case. And in my experience, it's led to lifelong medical complications due to delays in access to treatment for an eating disorder and other necessary care. Please consider the self-agency of a child to be able to reach out for help and get medical advice themselves, and to trust the medical opinion of the trained medical providers. And please vote no on 519. Thank you.
Thank you. Members of the committee, any quick final discussion, comments, anything? Representative Budd.
I don't think I've received as many emails on a bill as I have on this in the last few days from doctors, psychiatrists, parents, and the like. Most of them adamantly and unequivocally opposed to this. I have some concerns because we just say minor. We don't have any guidance with respect to the defining of a minor, not the under 18 portion, but there is a big difference between a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old. 13-year-old and a 17-year-old. This bill does nothing with respect to that. It lumps them all together. That's a problem. In addition, the cornerstone of the doctor-patient relationship is trust. And so when the family physician, the pediatrician, or the psychiatrist, talk to me, tell me what's going on. If you can't say, as the medical professional, that you are going to keep those things in confidence to help your patient make good decisions, you have removed the cornerstone of the doctor-patient relationship. And from there on out, it becomes much more difficult for parents to work with the doctor, for the child to speak to the parents, for the doctor-patient relationship. Everything is decimated. If we really wanted to work with parents and children to develop solid, healthy relationships and facilitate communication, this bill does not do it. The bill puts the parent in the driver's seat, even if the parent has no idea what's going on, isn't ready to hear what's going on, the child doesn't know how to talk about what's going on. We have to have some respect for the child, no matter the age, and a lot of respect for the doctor to help facilitate that relationship such that the child gets not necessarily what he or she wants, but what is in his or her best interest. And this bill does not take that into account.
Thank you. Now I'll entertain a motion since we're right up at our time. Who wishes to make the motion? Representative Carson Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move for a favorable report to the PCS of House Bill 519, unfavorable to the original with a referral to rules.
You've heard the motion. Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. And we are adjourned. Watch your calendar. We're concluded on that.